Ed Henry. Ed, we've been talking, and it's kind of interesting. We all know that Senator McCain was a fighter pilot, graduate of the Navy Academy, did 23 bombing missions, kind of interesting, prisoner of war, author, politician, and certainly a maverick, his own man, and we just found out he was a cook, loved to cook. But you also knew the senator. You worked a long time.
Covered him in the Senate, covered him on the presidential campaign trail. Many things stand out when you talk about his service. Let's not forget that his grandfather, John McCain Sr., and his father, John McCain Jr., they were both Navy admirals as well.
Right.
His father won a Silver Star during World War II. His grandfather was aboard the USS Missouri on September 2nd, 1945, when the Japanese surrendered. This is an entire family of public servants, and I mention that also because I remember the senator in a quiet moment in a Senate corridor many years ago, when I was asking him after one of his lost presidential campaigns, either 2000 or 2008, are you going to retire? Are you thinking about walking away? And one thing he told me that stuck out was he said that both his grandfather and father, when they retired from the Navy, they died very shortly thereafter. They no longer had a mission, had a vocation, had a calling. He said, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going out fighting. That always stuck with me. And when Governor Huckabee talks about the barbecue that he enjoyed, I was covering Hillary Clinton in the 2016 campaign. I remember being in Boston trying to get back from New Hampshire, and John McCain happened to be on the flight. And he said, "Oh, old boy, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm covering Hillary." And he said, "Oh, God." And he rolled his eyes about, all of these candidates. He wasn't being mean to Hillary Clinton. He was saying, all of these candidates, Bernie Sanders, they're all running around. I've been there, done that, and that kind of thing. He sits down, and two other things stand out. All he wanted to talk about was the Arizona Diamondbacks, because I'm a baseball fan, and he loved Paul Goldschmidt, the first baseman. The other thing, here he was at that time, late into his 70s. He had this book on the flight, a big, thick book on the history of the Navy. So when you want to understand how someone can keep going and fighting after all this time, battling cancer, he was always testing his mind, always learning until the final days.
One of the things that is so clear about him is that he is a man who didn't waste time. And so
he lost a lot of time, 5.5 years in a prison camp in Vietnam.
Yes.
And not having been through that horrifying experience, but one would imagine that you value time a lot more than all of us do, because when you lose that much time and you're going through such horrible abuse, once you get out, a lot of people would ask him, I remember covering him in the Senate, how he had a positive attitude. You could come out of a searing experience like that, pretty negative, pretty pessimistic.
Right.
Look, he had his good days and bad days, and he had a temper. Let's not gloss over that. And he had fights, petty fights, and he admitted later, I gotta let my temper get the best of me, Ed. When he'd have a fight on the Senate floor. I mean, I see Mitch McConnell tonight. People were talking about President Trump, and he didn't see eye to eye. He and Mitch McConnell rarely saw eye to eye when I covered the Senate more than a decade ago.
Is that right?
And now McConnell is putting out statements. And I'm not saying he's being disingenuous or anything. I just think John McCain was had a stormy temper. He was a tough guy. He, as you say, Navy guy. He proudly said at the bottom of his class at Annapolis, he prided himself on that he wasn't the brainiac.
That's right.
He was the tough guy.
I think he specifically said, I was number 5 from the
bottom. From the bottom.
From the bottom, from the top, and then he paused. But I also think he said he had a lot of demerits, too.
Yes.
So it sounds like he was a partier.
He talked a lot about being down in Florida as a Navy pilot, getting into trouble. But look, he also talked about learning from his mistakes. And obviously somebody who came out of that very difficult experience in a prison camp in Vietnam, he valued time, as we said, and really wanted to give back to this country.